Ayanna Roberts, a respected black schoolteacher with a reputation for fighting injustice, never imagined that simply walking to her car would change her life forever. But when two police officers, driven by bias and arrogance, wrongfully arrest her in front of her students, what follows leaves the entire police department, and the whole city, in complete shock. Who really is Ms. Roberts? And why did her arrest trigger a movement that would change everything? But before we dive into this shocking story, comment below where you're watching from today. World map. And if you believe in standing up for justice and fighting for what's right, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories that reveal the truth behind the headlines. Ms. Ayanna Roberts, a tall, elegant black woman in her early 40s, her locks neatly tied back, her tailored dress flowing effortlessly as she walked. Ayanna had taught at Lincoln Middle School for over 15 years. Beloved by her students, respected by her peers, and feared by anyone who tried to cut corners or mistreat her kids. As Ayanna reached her car, her phone buzzed with a message from one of her students' mothers. Another eviction notice. Another family barely holding on. Ayanna's heart clenched, but before she could reply, the sharp bark of a police command shattered the morning calm. "Ma'am, step away from the vehicle." Two officers approached, Officer Kincaid and Officer Torres. Both white, both young. Both oozing the kind of nervous aggression that comes from thinking authority is power instead of responsibility. Ayanna's brow furrowed. "Is there a problem, officers?" "No sudden moves," Kincaid ordered, hand already hovering near his taser. "We need to see some ID." Ayanna had been here before. Too many times. Same script, different block. "May I ask why?" Her voice was calm, but her eyes held steel. "Just comply," Torres snapped. "Suspicious activity reported. You match the description." Ayanna's lips pressed into a thin line. Suspicious activity? In a pencil skirt and heels? But she knew better than to argue. Not yet. She handed over her ID, her posture impeccable. Kincaid's eyes flicked down to the ID. "Ayanna Roberts," he read aloud, his tone dipping into condescension. "You live around here?" Ayanna's jaw clenched. "I've lived here for 20 years. I teach at Lincoln Middle." "Sure you do." His smirk said it all, disbelief wrapped in bias. "Step away from the vehicle." "I'm heading to work," Ayanna said, voice even. "If you have a warrant or a valid reason to detain me, say so." That was enough. To Kincaid, it wasn't logic, it was defiance. "Put your hands behind your back." The words hit like a slap. Ayanna's heart pounded, but she didn't move. "For what reason?" she asked. Torres stepped closer, resisting compliance. Before she could respond, Torres grabbed her wrist. Pain shot up her arm as they twisted her to the side, her tote bag spilling papers and student assignments across the pavement. Homework fluttered in the breeze as a nearby child gasped, clutching their mother's hand. People stopped. Phones came out. A retired postal worker named Mr. Langston stepped onto his porch, his camera already rolling. "That's Ms. Roberts," someone shouted. "That's my daughter's teacher." A jogger pulled off their earbuds. What did she do? The police didn't answer. They shoved Ayanna into the back of the cruiser as children on their way to school watched in horrified silence, their safe space, their classroom protector being hauled away like a criminal. "Call the principal," a voice rang out. "We're not letting this slide," shouted another. The tide was turning and the cops didn't even realize it yet. At the station, Ayanna sat in the holding area, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. Her composure was unshakable, but inside, fury boiled. She had memorized every face of every child she'd ever taught who said, "I don't trust the police." And now she was their proof. Officer Kincaid was still grinning. "Another one who thinks they're special," he muttered to Torres. But just then, a younger officer, Officer Ruiz, squinted at the intake file. His eyes widened. "Wait, is this the same Ayanna Roberts who testified at the state education hearings last year? The civil rights advocate? The one who went viral for calling out racial bias and student suspensions?" Kincaid's grin faltered. "Yeah," Ruiz said, his voice louder now. "She's been on CNN. The governor even quoted her in his education reform speech." The room went silent. Within minutes, Captain Harris, a gruff but fair black woman with 30 years on the force, stormed into the holding area. Her eyes locked onto Ayanna. "Ms. Roberts." The captain's voice softened with respect. "Are you all right?" Ayanna gave a small nod. "I'm fine, but I want a lawyer, and my phone call." The captain turned to Kincaid and Torres, her expression deadly. "What the hell did you two idiots do?" "They resisted compliance," Kincaid mumbled. Captain Harris's nostrils flared. "You arrested one of the state's top civil rights educators? On camera, in front of children? For walking to her car?" Neither officer answered. "Congratulations," the captain said. "You've just made history. For all the wrong reasons." Outside, the crowd had doubled. Students, parents, activists, local news vans. Signs reading "Justice for Ms. Roberts" waved above heads. Former students held up poster board photos of Ayanna at school events, coaching debate teams, handing out diplomas. "She's why I graduated," one young man shouted to the news cameras. "She's the reason I stayed out of trouble." The city was watching now, and Ayanna's arrest had just become a movement. By the time Captain Harris ordered Ayanna's release, it was too late for damage control. Reporters were already digging into Kincaid's disciplinary record. Excessive force complaints, racial profiling incidents, all buried under bureaucratic rugs. The department announced his immediate suspension. Torres resigned before they could fire him. Ayanna stood on the station steps, microphone in hand, calm but resolute. "This isn't just about me," she said, voice steady. "This is about every black teacher, parent, and student who has ever been treated like a threat instead of a neighbor. I teach my students to stand up for what's right. Today they stood up for me." The viral video of Ayanna's arrest sparked investigations, protests, and policy changes. The city council launched a bias-free policing task force, and Ayanna was asked to chair the community oversight committee. Her school held a justice assembly where students spoke about their experiences with racial bias, and how seeing Ayanna fight back gave them courage. Months later, Ayanna stood before her class. "Does anyone remember," she asked, "what happened on Jefferson Avenue?" Hands shot up. "And what did we learn?" A girl in the front row stood. "We learned that justice isn't just a word, it's something we fight for." Ayanna smiled. "That's right, and it's a fight we fight together." Have you ever witnessed racial injustice in your community? What would you have done if you saw Ms. Roberts being taken away? Share your thoughts below. And if you believe in standing up for justice, hit that subscribe button. Together we write the next chapter.